Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Hockey Journey Podcast, episode number 142, the Lacey Martin Hockey Journey. Presented to you by OnlineHockeyTraining.com. I'm your host, Coach Lance Pedlick. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe so you won't miss out on any future episodes. Before we jump into a journey that I'm especially proud of, because this young lady did it, climbed the big mountain and got to the top. But before we get into how she did it and begin this conversation, if you want to learn more about me, my hockey experiences, what I know, and most importantly, how I've been helping hockey players get really good with a stick and puck, just head on over to OnlineHockeyTraining.com and gain instant access to my 10-part video series where I'll show you everything. Consider it my gift to you. Lastly, if you live in Minnesota or are visiting the state of hockey sometime soon and want to schedule an in-person off-ice stick skills lesson, I'd love to have the opportunity to show you my little world. Go to sweethockeycoach.com, that's sweethockeycoach.com, and watch the video on the homepage for instructions. Thanks, and I look forward to working with you sometime soon. My next guest holds a special place in Coach Lance's heart as we spend years training together on a regular basis. When that happens, you really get to know the person, going through the ups and downs that life throws at us. Lacey Martin set a goal with me back in 2016 to one day play college hockey, and she did it, and I want her to tell us all here listening today how she did it. The great and not so great, the power of the mind in times of adversity, and the reward of being a great teammate and human being. We're going to cover it all. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming former Boston University Terrier and Minnetonka skipper, Lacey Martin, to the show. Hi, Lacey.
Hi, I'm excited.
I am too. It's always fun to revisit a time, that I was still in the beginning stages. I don't even know what the heck I was teaching you back then. But
I know 2016 is a long time ago. I didn't know it was that long ago.
Yes, we're going to get
14.
to that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the one thing that I do when I do lessons is I take notes on what we're doing, and we'll get to that later in the show here. But how I like to start each episode, Lacey, is especially when it's with a former player, is for you to rewind the tape. And let's take a moment and look in the rear view mirror, because there's going to be a lot of younger players out there that, want to know how you did it and how you were operating when you were a younger person, climbing that hockey ladder. So let's go back to the beginning. Where'd you grow up? What was your childhood like? Your parents, siblings, friends, your introduction to hockey and other sports? Basically, tell the listeners in a nutshell what the heck it was like growing up Lacey Martin.
Well, I grew up in Minnetonka. I lived in Minnetonka my whole life. So I have 4 siblings, an older brother, 2 younger sisters, and a younger brother. So definitely a fun household. My dad played hockey for a little bit growing up, but he actually was a bigger skier. So I think he was a little better at skiing. So he wasn't huge into hockey once he was older, but my older brother wanted to play, and my dad loved watching hockey, and since he played and whatever, so my dad was all for it. And I think I just saw him skate and I wanted to put skates on. I think I learned how to skate when I was like 4 or 5, but I think I started playing when I was around 5 or 6. And then my family, we actually moved to Connecticut when I was in 2nd grade for like a year and a half, and so I didn't play while we lived there, just because girls hockey, is a lot different. The opportunity in Minnesota at that time was a lot different than us living in Connecticut. But then I came back, started playing again, and here we are. I played for a long time. I was a big soccer player too, but once I hit middle school, I kind of focused on hockey, and I ended up quitting soccer and kind of just rolled from hockey from there when I was like 12 or 13. So yeah, but I think my older brother, was just watching him play was a big influence, and my dad might coach me for a long time growing up too. So, yeah.
So let me read something to you. I had texted your parents just telling them that I'm having you on the show, and if there's anything you want to share with me. So here's what your dad texted me. He said, Hi, Lance. The first story that comes to mind is Lacey's first ever club hockey practice. As a U or 8U,
I know
she made
exactly what he's gonna say.
she made the Ice Cougars AAA team. At the first practice, she was so bad they had to dedicate a coach to her the entire practice. All I could think about while watching was that her hockey career was going to end as quickly as it started. As her coach, Bill Callinger, I think his name, was
Yes.
coming off the ice, I pulled him aside and I asked him if he thought maybe Lacey was over her head. He assured me that by the end of the summer, she'd be right with all the other girls. He was right, is what he texted. Not a good
Yeah.
strong suit in that first practice, huh?
Yeah, no, I remember that because that was I think my first summer hockey back from moving back from Connecticut. So I hadn't played hockey in a bit. And I had like before that, when I say I played hockey before Connecticut, I think I just like kind of skated and whatever. So I came back and I tried out for this team and I made it, which I don't I don't really know how. But yeah, I think I don't know, that coach really I guess saw something in me. I have no idea, but I still remember that practice. Like I was mortified and I was like, this is so embarrassing. But I just the only thing I really remember is he was like teaching me backwards crossovers, and I was like down on the goal line, kind of trying to cross over the goal line as everyone, like our whole team's practice was down on the other end. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't be here. But no, I kept going, and I think I maybe didn't want to, but my dad was like, no, like they really want you, like whatever. And it ended up, I picked it up quickly, and by the end of the summer, I was fine. But definitely a few scary practices at the beginning, so that was funny. Yeah, but I'll never live that down. That's a story that gets brought up a lot.
Well, I'm glad Bill saw something in you because
Oh
that
yeah.
would have been a waste. So a lot of you talk about your family. I mean, we had been working together, I would say, for probably a couple years, and I didn't even know that there was a herd of Martins. There's like a whole other family that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Uh, you said your older brother was a bit of an influence. A lot of pond hockey. Were you shooting and doing stuff at home off ice in your garage or basement?
Yeah, we lived on the Lake Minnetonka for a bit, so when it'd freeze, we would skate on the lake, and that's kind of when I think I was like second, third grade, so that's when I picked up hockey again. So we skated a lot then. And then, I mean, we've moved and lived in a couple different houses, but we will always make a rink and skate outside. So my older brother, he played throughout high school, but he played junior gold. He wasn't like the ultra competitive, like wasn't gonna play college, whatever, but we always played for fun. And so I think that was nice too, because when I got to play with him, it wasn't like super intense. I always enjoyed it because we always would have fun playing. So yeah.
That's interesting. I just had Kelsey King on,
Oh
and
yeah.
she didn't start playing organized hockey until I think she was 10, but she had been pond hockey for 3 or 4 years. And I just find that, amazing that you start that late, and, that's just the determination. And, once you get that bug, it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah. No,
Um,
the pond hockey's fun for sure.
yeah. And were you did you guys have a spot in your garage to shoot pucks? Was that
Yeah,
going on at that point?
maybe not that point. I think we kind of I started shooting pucks at home more when I kind of wanted to, when college hockey was like my goal, but that was not until like middle school. So I think that was a little later when we started doing that at home. My brother didn't really do that as much with me. That was
Right.
kind of just a me thing. And then once Tess, my little sister, came up, we started doing that together. But she's 6 years younger than me, so I was kind of doing that on my own for a long time.
Right. Yeah, that probably was right around the same time that we started working together.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think when we started working together, I think I had something set up at my house before, but that's when I really kind of dove in and took doing stuff at home more seriously because I think that really elevated my game for sure.
You're darn right it did.
Oh yeah.
So uh, every lesson that I have, I always, take notes to make sure, the progressions and stuff. And the first lesson that I have with a player, I'll do a little summary, like what I experienced, what potential, whatever. And our first lesson together was January 18th, 2016. So how old were you then?
I just turned 15, maybe? No, I just turned 14
Yeah,
because my birthday's January 3rd. So I
because I
just turned
remember
14.
I remember your mom it was your mom that was the first lesson, right? Not your dad.
I
I just
think
I don't
I
know.
think my dad was with me the first time, but then my mom came the rest of the times.
Yeah,
But I
because
think my dad came.
yeah, he wasn't that memorable, obviously.
Yeah.
But but anyways, that was a long time ago. And here's what I wrote: lesson overview. First player, I didn't have to make any corrections. So whoever was influencing you, your dad or your brother, or whoever coaches, Mr. Callinger, if
Yeah.
that's it. They did a good job. I said, fundamentally solid, lots of potential. I sense that the dad sees how good she is, but she needs to be pushed a bit from another voice. Hoping the light goes off for her, as I think she could be a great player. I don't think I ever asked this before, Lacey. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
reading. I don't think I ever asked this before, but when you got in the car with your dad after the lesson, what do you remember? Like, what did you say about me or whatever?
Um, well, I just always remember going to you. I always had fun there, which I think influenced me to again go home and do the same thing. But I never, I mean, growing up, you complain about going to practice every once in a while. You're like, oh, I don't want to go. Like, that's not fun. But going to work with you, I never complained. I always had fun. So that was definitely the one thing that I always remember. And I wanted to keep going. I mean, I think there was a point where I was going to you like 2 times a week. So I
Yeah.
definitely enjoyed that. But yeah, that was the one thing I remembered when I first went. I was like, that's fun. And I think it's just because you always implemented like kind of fun little drills or the challenge drills or something a little crazy. I would play right-handed every once in a while. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah.
I tell that story all the time, Lacey. So one of the experiments I did as a coach, and just for the listeners out there, is I wanted to go see how good I could get and on teaching this. So I'm like, how can I go back to when you first had a stick in your hand and how awkward it was? No one remembers that, but I'm like, oh, what if I teach myself opposite hand and, you know, track everything, how I was feeling and all that. So I did that. And um, three months I did that. And about halfway through the third month is when I'm like, boom, I was like, coach has got some opposite hand mojo now.
Yeah.
So I started having players do it. And you right around that time we were working together, and every lesson we're doing something opposite hand. And
Yeah.
I remember you came into a lesson, you go, you won't believe what happened. There was a coaching change at Minnetonka, and they apparently didn't know many of you players, but you one of the first couple practices, at the end you said that they split into two ends. You played cross ice, 3-on-3, but opposite hand. And
Yeah. Yeah.
after your first shift or something, one of the coaches came up there like yelling at you. What are you doing? Don't you know it's opposite hand? You're like, yeah, I'm playing opposite hand.
Yeah.
But you were
Yeah,
schooling me.
they were like, how do you know how to play right-handed? I was like, well, I actually do it at like once or twice a week. It's like I'm pretty good because I could like kind of shoot the puck. I mean, not nearly as good as I could shoot the puck my normal hand, but I could lift it and whatever. And everyone else looked so, but I could still like skate and move and stick handle right-handed as good as I
Right.
could left-handed. Like, I mean, not as good, but I probably looked like I was 10 years old, like a 10-year-old skill versus a 4-year-old skill. But yeah, they were like, what? Like,
But you
yeah,
looked really
so
good. You looked out of place when everyone else is playing opposite hand. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that was cool. I still tell that story all the time. So, but that first lesson, I just, you do something long enough and you see commonalities, and, I can sense when a player has that giddy up, that, okay, they're tracking something, they're going after it. And you were one of those people. And one of the things that when I start working with someone is, did you enjoy it? Yeah. Okay. You want to come back? Yeah. Okay. Here's how it works. You gotta earn that next lesson by, doing some drills at home, working my online program. And, a lot of players, I'll see one lesson and I don't see them again. I couldn't get you
Yeah.
guys out of my hair. I mean, I still got tested there. So
I
you
know.
bought in. What year was it? Do you remember kind of the moment when you're like, okay, I want to do this. I'm going after college hockey. I want to see how good I can get.
Yeah, I think my transition, so I played soccer really seriously. I was on like a pretty high level team that we would play like a year up. And so when I was growing up, soccer was kind of more of a focus just because I think I was at a higher level at soccer back then than I was hockey. But once I hit like sixth, seventh grade mark, I was like, I enjoy hockey way more. And I kind of plateaued in soccer. Like I wasn't working on it as much just because I enjoyed hockey so much more that I think that switch, I was unfortunately had to quit soccer due to how busy I was with hockey around, I think in seventh grade. But I think sixth, seventh grade was when I was like, I want to play college hockey. And I had like a Minnesota Gopher painted on my basement wall because I mean, everyone growing up wants to play for the Gophers. And so I think, and that was all in middle school, sixth, seventh grade. So that's when I really like, that was my goal. But I think like more seventh, eighth grade is when I really kind of hunkered down and was working more on my own. Because eighth grade is when I came to you. And then, but that's when I was also focusing on trying to make the varsity team my freshman year. But I think
Right.
that was like, because that was my nearsighted goal was making varsity freshman year. And then I mean, yeah, so I think seventh, eighth grade is kind of when I was really focused on, I mean, one, making varsity, but two, I was like, I want to play college hockey eventually. So,
That sparked a memory. Because I was working with you when you were deciding if you were going to play 15s or go up to high school again.
yeah.
Uh, do you remember kind of, what you were battling with, like to go up or back?
Yeah.
Play
So,
15s and go up.
yeah, yeah. So, back then when it was the old coaching staff at Minnetonka to be on the varsity team as a ninth grader, they'd have to ask you to try out. So then you kind of knew you were going to be on the team because they wouldn't let ninth graders try out just because we had so many numbers. Um, so I was asked to try out, I think, in eighth grade, and like the spring of eighth grade. And the reasoning why I was trying to decide between 15s and varsity, because I feel like most people just jump to varsity because it's cool. And you're like, oh my gosh, a freshman on varsity, like whatever. But I, I mean, I really respect my dad for this, but he was more thinking about um, my confidence level and like maybe if I'm playing on varsity and I'm not playing as much and maybe I'm not touching the puck as much and like all that stuff that it might hinder my development versus like excel it. I mean, me being 14, I was like, wait, it'd be so cool. But once we kind of explained this, I was kind of like, okay, you're right. So then we decided like what would be best for me. We talked to the coach for a while and it ended up working out. I played varsity freshman year, but I kind of thought it was cool. It's a different perspective because it's all on what you want. And especially at that age, I feel like that's a huge development age. So at 14, like, do you want to be on a team that maybe, I mean, I learned a lot and I played with a lot of older girls, but I definitely didn't get as much confidence as I would have playing 15. So I think that was the big deciding factor is like how much confidence I would have going into the following years. But yeah, so that was the decision. But I ended up going to varsity just because I wanted the challenge and I wanted to see kind of where I was versus everyone else. And I did think that was before um, um, what do you call it when you're looking at colleges and stuff that was before
Recruiting.
the yeah recruiting. I can't
There we
think of the
go.
word recruiting. That's before the rule was that you could be a junior, so I could have been getting recruited my freshman year, and so I was like it would be better for me to play varsity, and I ended up committing after freshman year, so that definitely wouldn't have happened if I didn't play varsity, which is fine. But back then, everyone was like jumping the gun and wanting to commit in like eighth and ninth grade. So That was another big thing. But
Yeah. And those
yeah,
rules have changed now, right?
yeah. Now it's your junior year. Like Tess just went through it, and after her sophomore year, I think she can start calling people like June 15th going into junior year. It was what it is now, which is way better because now you have the time to like develop and not you're not
Right.
committing when you're 14.
Yeah, that shouldn't even be in your thought process. It's just working on your skills and getting better. And
Yeah.
so was that tough when you went up there because there's there's two big jumps in girls hockey. Most only get one jump, and that's from 15s to high school,
Yeah.
especially if you're going. I mean, that's a big jump. And then when you go from high school to college, but you know, was that because you're the girl, you're the queen bee on the team
Yeah.
on the U15s, and then you go up to varsity and you're not anymore, and you don't get as
Yeah.
much ice time. Was that tough to get through?
Yeah, it was tough. I think I experienced that in and not only high school but college as well, which I'm guessing we will get to eventually. But
Oh, yeah,
yeah, that was tough. I don't remember that as much as I do with college, just because again, I feel like college it was more recently and definitely higher stakes. But yeah, I struggled my freshman and a little bit in the sophomore year. I didn't play as much, but we Minnetonka at the time only carried like three lines of forwards and 4 to 5 defensemen. Like we had a really small roster. So not playing that much was like you're on the third line, which is a lot different than being on the fourth line. So I never experienced just like sitting on the bench during
yeah,
high school, which I did ultimately experience going to college for a little bit. But yeah, so it wasn't terrible just because of the small roster we had that I still was getting ice time, but maybe I wasn't on the power play or the penalty kill, or maybe I'd get skipped a few times, like which I ended up being okay with because you kind of have to be. But yeah, so it wasn't terrible just because of our numbers, but definitely hard because you go from being the go-to person on your 15s team. We need a goal, and you're thrown out there, and then you get there and you're like, oh, it's not me. It's somebody
you,
else. So
you become the cheerleader for a little while.
yeah, which is good for character development for sure.
Well, it is, and that's the kind of the rite of passage that you gotta earn that right to be the top dog, to get those extra minutes on the power play, penalty kill, beginning of the game, end of the game, whatever it is. So, but it's not easy to get through sometimes. But you have very smart parents that I'm sure helped you along with that,
Oh yeah.
which is awesome. So, what I want to go to, let's touch a little bit about you played youth hockey at Minnetonka, and that's in Minnesota for those non-Minnesotan people listening. But what did you do after the winter seasons? I'm just gonna throw something out there on a whim that I might be right, that it had some connection with Winnie Brote, because
Yeah.
girls hockey, if you're not with Winnie Brote, you're not playing girls hockey really then.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I was younger, I played for the Minnesota Machine, which isn't connected to Winnie. But Keith Jungles was my coach through the Machine and then through when we went to OS with Winnie. And I think the reason why I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I was at a high level, but he kind of made me into the hockey player I was once I got older. We played at such a high level in the summer, and I think his coaching just he coached more intense for definitely the age we were at, but I think that really helped me, and he just was really good at skill development, really good at kind of having us focus and be serious about what we were doing. And so I started with him, gosh, like I was probably 10, 11, and that's when we were Machine. And then we switched over to OS, probably, I mean, 7th, 8th grade again. So like 12, 13, 14. But he was my coach the entire time. And then even in the summers in high school, after the high school season, we'd go back and play Whitecaps. At that point, it was like the junior Whitecaps. and he was still our coach, and my dad was the assistant coach, but my dad was more of the fun guy at that point. But um, yeah, so Keith really influenced me, and he was my longest ever coach. So
Talk about
yeah,
that team a little bit. And I know Keith. He's been. I don't know if he's coaching anymore, but for when I was going through the process, we coached 1 year together on one team
yeah,
because we have boys that are the same age. But um, the my younger boy Rhett benefited from the experiences that I gained coaching my older son Rem in
yeah,
AAA, and I was with the Blades, so it was always the Blades and Machine and stuff like that. Um, but that's he's done a good job off of that team. How many players made it to Division One? I mean, it's pretty much all of them, right?
I think all of them. I not definitely not when we were 10, 11, but once we hit middle school, I think all of us played Division One, which is so rare. And I think that's all credit to how he coached us and how he made us all buy in. Like I think he really fostered an environment for all of us that we all really wanted to be good and we all really wanted to be the best. Like we would go to these tournaments and like we would go there and only think about winning and that sort of stuff, which I think for is important. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not the only thing that's important, but it definitely influenced how like the energy I brought to the rink. Like I was like ultra competitive throughout my whole career, and I think it came from that, and I think it gives you kind of this edge and this want to like be successful.
Well, in those environments, those AAA teams where you can hand pick them, you're getting like-minded individuals,
Yeah.
and you feed them hopefully the right messaging where they're all pulling on the same rope, which it sounds like you guys were, and
Yeah.
then you have the intention of focusing on what's best for these kids long term, not to win a tournament next weekend. And the proof is in the pudding with how successful all of you guys were. Really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we were like a well-oiled machine. And I think it was fun for me because again, like you said, we all went in the summer, we all played together and all of us wanted to play college hockey. All of us were really serious about it. Whereas maybe in your when you're playing for your town, not everyone is maybe at that level or wants to be at that level. And so I think I always enjoyed that just because of the competitive level it was at always. And everyone kind of had the same idea and everyone had the same goal, which was cool, especially being that young, being around people like that was more inspiring and more motivating to do it. So that was definitely one of the more fun groups I've been a part of growing up. Definitely my most influential, I think.
Yeah. And, healthy competition when you get
Yeah.
like-minded and they want, same pursuits. That's pretty cool. And, it's, you spend way more time practicing than you do playing games. So if you don't enjoy your coaches, your teammates going to the rink, you probably should find another sport.
Yeah. Yeah,
You got to do.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the recruiting process, because I'm sure that there was more than just Boston University in the mix. Tell us about that. Did you go see some other schools? Was BU number one, or did you have a little decision to make at the final time when you had to choose?
Yeah, so funny story actually. I talked to kind of a wide range of people. I talked to a few schools in Minnesota, maybe wanting to stay in Minnesota just because I think for girls especially it's very highly competitive to stay and play in Minnesota. I talked to a few schools out east in Hockey East and then a few like Ivy Leagues, ECAC. Like I kind of was all over the board just because I wanted to keep my options open. And at that point, again, I was really young, so I didn't really necessarily know what I wanted for sure. And so I kind of just was like, I'm going to talk to everyone, see everything, and see what I like best. So BU, um, Brian DeRocher was my coach until this past year. He retired, but he was my 15s national coach. And I didn't necessarily get recruited by them, but I was flying to Boston and to visit other schools. And my dad or my parents reached out to BD, which was what we call Brian Droscher, but he reached out to BD and was like, hey, like, we're landing in Boston. Lacey would like to see your, like, can we just come look around, whatever, just because I knew him from national camp. He's a great coach, really good guy. He's like, yeah, for sure, come, whatever. And I told my dad, I was like, I don't even want to visit there. Like, it's right in the middle of the city. I'm not going to like it, like, all this stuff. Because, I mean, coming from Minnesota and then going to live somewhere in Boston is a little intimidating. Like, BU is literally downtown. Like, it's one street and it's all high-rise building, and it's in a big, really populated area. So I was like, I'm not gonna like it. Like, it's not whatever. We get there, and I'm walking around. I'm like, wow, I really like this. And then we sit down in his office, and he offered me. And I hadn't really been recruited by them, so I was so shocked. But I was excited, obviously, because I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
I was really pleasantly surprised that I would like an environment like this. And then I was like, wow, like I didn't know. But so then I was like, obviously I didn't commit at that point. I went and visited all the other schools, but it was cool because I had visited the schools in Minnesota right before, and then I went out east and visited all those schools. So I saw them all relatively at the same time. So it was really easy for me to compare what I liked versus what I didn't like. And so I was between, kind of, my decision came down to, like, do I want to be home and play at home, or do I want to try something new and go somewhere else? And I really wanted to go play with new people because a lot of Minnesota girls do stay in Minnesota, which is totally fine. But I was like, maybe I can go play with some girls from Massachusetts or Canada or whatever. So I think that influenced my decision the most, is like, I want to try something new. Like, I can always come back to Minnesota if I want. Like, I was like, my family all lives here. I'll be in Minnesota all the time. But I was like, let's try something new and go somewhere different. And BU had the full package. The hockey team, when I went in there, was ranked like 8th in the country. The school is fantastic. It's obviously in a really cool spot. Like, Boston has everything to offer. So I was like, I was definitely pleasantly surprised. Definitely didn't think I would like somewhere like that, just being from Minnesota and being such a home person. But I loved it. And my 14-year-old self, I always say, I was like, she made a good decision. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm shocked she did, but she did. So
Well, that's awesome.
yeah.
And I just want to, say that that's exactly the advice that I give players is, if you're in that position to get a college scholarship, to go see as many schools as you can, because if you do that, there's going to be some that are going to drop off right away, and there'll be a couple that rise to the top, and it's a great process. So I'm glad that you made the right decision, and you graduated. I love that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, recruiting was definitely really stressful. Like, my dad and my mom were very, very helpful with it, but I think at that age too, I was like, I'm making this, like, what seems like a life altering decision, which going to college where you're going to college is a big decision. But yeah, so my parents helped a lot with that, and kind of talking through, like, what I wanted to do and what would be best for me and all that. So
Awesome. Yeah, I miss your mom. Your dad, not so much, but no.
I
No,
know, it's
I'm.
weird. Once we were able to drive, she was
Oh,
to your
that's just
lessons,
like
she wasn't allowed anymore.
I've had that twice now with you guys, because your mom stopped coming when you started driving, and then, and I
Now
enjoy the
Tess can drive.
conversations. Yeah, and then Tess can drive, and now I don't see her anymore, but I love the conversations that I had with her. Sometimes I had to say, just read or something. Okay,
Yeah.
I gotta quiet up a little bit. I gotta
She
focus on.
loves to talk. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So before we get to the transition when you went to BU, I want a couple other questions. Did you have what was your state tournament appearance, youth and then in high school? Because it's funny because I'll train. I mean, I was working with you for a couple years probably before I ever saw you skate, and it was the first time I saw you skate was on TV in the state tournament. That's how it is for
Yeah.
most players, unless the parents send me something. And it's funny
Yeah.
because I don't need to know how good a kid skates. I can tell how good they are by what they do with the puck in
Yeah.
my space, and you caught my attention right away. All right, so tell me, what did you do? How much hardware did you win as a youth and in high school?
Youth, I think we made it 12s and 15s year. I think we won consolation both times. We lost the first game and then ended up winning because once you lose, then you go to the consolation bracket, and then we
Yep.
would win the consolation bracket. But we always, I don't know. In youth, we should have probably done a little better, but always whatever. My first 2 years of high school, we didn't make the state tournament because we're in section two and we would play. It was always us in Eden Prairie in the section final. So we lost to them the first 2 years. And then my junior, senior year, we made it to state and we got third both years. So never quite made it, but I always say, like, everyone's like, oh, what's one of your favorite hockey memories? And the state tournament was always one of mine. I
Oh
always
yeah.
will say that. Like that, even we lost in overtime in the semifinals and had to go to the third place game the next morning and we were all so upset. But I was like, it's all like it was just the atmosphere and like I mean, when you grow up in Minnesota, you understand. No, I always try to explain this to my friends that aren't from Minnesota, and they're like, I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
but I'm like, no, it's like the biggest thing ever, and just the atmosphere and like kind of the build up. It was so exciting, and so whenever someone asks me like what my favorite hockey memory, that's definitely one of them for sure. But yeah, the state tournament's so fun, and even though I didn't end up winning, that's not really what I care about anymore. I mean, definitely would have been cool, but now when I look back at it, it's probably the last thing I would have remembered anyway. So
Right.
it's fun.
Right.
Yeah.
A quick word from our sponsor, headsuphockey.ai. The Hockey Journey podcast has a new sheriff in town sponsoring the show, and Coach Lance couldn't be more excited about spreading the love to all of you hockey enthusiasts out there about this new revolutionary stick handling training application powered by AI technology. Michael Fitzgerald and his team over at headsuphockey.ai have absolutely knocked it out of the park with their engaging product that encompasses the majority of the stick skill development sectors like dribbling, faking, cupping, and to me, the most important hockey enhancer of all, and that's vision training. Oh, and did I forget to mention that all of the progress players gain over time using this spectacular device is achieved in a gamification environment, providing performance analytics and data tracking to ensure continuous forward momentum. If interested in picking up a headsuphockey.ai and start the process of separating yourself from the competition, use the code CoachLance at checkout and receive 10% off your developmental investment into yourself. Thank you, Michael Fitzgerald and the headsuphockey.ai team.
Yeah.
Well, before we transition into your college life, let me go over the Minnetonka skipper stats. Freshman, 25 games, 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points. Sophomore, 25 games, 4 goals, 11 assists, 15 points. Junior year, kind of come out a little bit, 18
Yeah.
for 25 games, 18 goals, 15 assists for 33 points. And then your senior year, didn't play as many games, might have had a little injury, 21 games, 24 goals, 17 assists for 41 points. Did you have a little setback there your senior year? Did you get dinged up? I can't remember.
Yeah. You remember I couldn't play for the 4 games because I got in trouble. You remember this? I called you.
Oh, I do remember this now, but I didn't remember it. Do you want to share that, or we just want to leave it at
Yeah, I
that?
can share it. I'm of age. I got I mean, in high school you make dumb mistakes, you want to fit in, whatever. I was at a party and the party didn't end up so well, and obviously with the Minnesota State High School League, you can't you can't play if you get busted at a party. So I had to sit out 4 games, which was very sad. I thought it was life ending at that moment, but um I mean, so did we all thought it was my life was ending at that time. But again, I think I learned more out of it than anything. And so I think everything happens for a reason. And I definitely learned my lesson and I became better after that. Definitely make smarter decisions and whatever. But yeah, that was a big turning point for me where I was like, okay, I need to be maybe a little smarter and not try to fit in with my peers because I have a little more at stake than other people do, possibly. And
Yeah.
I wanted to be successful in college and be able to go play college hockey. So that was that. But yeah, definitely don't regret anything. I mean, if I could go back, I wouldn't do it, but I think
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason. So I learned a lot more from it than anything else.
Let me tell you a little story from Coach Lance's past. I was a senior at Cooper High School, and I didn't commit till after the season was over, you know. So I wasn't heavily recruited. But anyways, during the season, it was right around Christmas time, I think it was. We were up in Duluth, Minnesota, playing in some showcase or something. Cooper Hawks again. And the hotel, the room I was staying in was room number 711. So I don't know if you can put this together yet, but
Oh yeah.
there was some door that they stored all the pop in that was left unlocked. So I took a few cases over to my room and I opened up a little 7-Eleven convenience store and was selling pop out of my room to all the players and the kids or whatever. And I got
Yeah.
caught. So my coach, Ken Staples, he knew that I was, recruited. I mean, I was up for Mr. Hockey that year, so I don't know how I did that, but I mean, I was in the same boat that I was chasing something, and he could have just brushed it under the rug, but he pulled me out of the lineup. We were playing Edina, and I had to sit in the stands and watch the game for that. So yeah, tough
Yeah.
lesson to learn. Would have did a lot different, but made me a stronger person after it. That's for sure.
Yeah. That same, I mean, since I was in trouble with the high school league, I couldn't be up for Miss Hockey or anything like that. So I went to the banquet and I sat and watched, and I mean, definitely was
Ouch.
hard, but yeah, definitely was hard. But I was like, hey, like you made this decision, you have to deal with it. And I think at 18 that's tough, but now that I'm a little older, I'm like, okay, like I think that was a good thing to happen to me because your actions have consequences, and sometimes if you make a dumb decision, you're gonna have to eat it. So that's
Yeah.
what happened to me, but it was fine. It was fine. I came out from my suspension. I was like, okay, I'm still gonna play. I want to do well. Like I don't care if I'm not gonna be up for any awards or anything. Like I was at that point I was just focused on like, okay, let's go win state. So
Yep.
even though
Yep.
we didn't, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it's happened. You got to deal with it and then you move on. So well done. Let's transition now to college. College, I think, is awesome for players or anyone. When you're done with high school and you go to college, especially you leaving the state, you get to totally reinvent yourself. It's like hit the reset button and who am I going to be? So you pick BU. I just want to go over your stats here, and then we're going to go through your journey at college because it wasn't the smooth road. First year, 11
No.
games. You got one goal, one assist. No, one goal, I think.
Yep, one goal, that's it.
One goal. Yeah. Hey, better than me my freshman year. I got skunked. So you're always trying to one up me, Lace. Doggone it. Second year, sophomore year was a tough year. You only played 5 games, or 30 games. No, sophomore year. So 11 games. Sophomore year, 30 games. You got 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points. That was a tough year because we'll talk about that, but I remember that because then your junior year, you got 18 points, and then your senior year, 35 games, 27 points, almost a point per game. And you were assistant captain your last 2 years. So
yeah,
you go to BU, you're in your dorm, begin.
So freshman year, it was it was COVID. So again, we only played 11 games. It didn't feel I was on the fourth line, which I played a little bit on the third line, but I was on the fourth line, but I was like, hey, we're playing one game every 3 weeks. Like it didn't feel that real to me. Like I was like,
Right?
I was
Yeah.
more here, I'm living in Boston. It was COVID, so we couldn't really do much, but we would go rollerblade downtown. Like freshman year was more of an experience experience that didn't include hockey, which is cool because I was able to kind of explore Boston. I definitely went out in Boston and kind of explored my freshman year just because we weren't as busy with hockey. So
Yeah.
me not playing didn't seem like that big of a deal, especially I was a freshman. Like I wasn't expecting anything. We had a girl on our team that ended up being an Olympian. Like I was like, I wasn't expecting anything. And then my sophomore year, we came back and I was like, okay, this is the first full season. I worked so hard the summer after my freshman year because I was like, okay, this is where it's going to start, and I want to do really well. And kind of our strong senior class left, and so I was like, now I have the opportunity to be up there and play a lot because my freshman year we were ranked into the country. We didn't or eighth in the country going into it. I mean, after 11 games, I didn't really switch. So I think we were kind of at the same boat going into sophomore year. But again, our team, we lost. I mean, our best player that ended up being an Olympian, Jessie Comfer, she was so good. Definitely drove our team. A few other girls were so good. Our goalie was good. They were all gone. So at this point, it was kind of a rebuilding part for BU. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. And I get their first practice. We have a new coaching staff other than my head coach. We have new coaching staff. I get there. We have the first few practices all skilled, and the first day we have lines, I'm on the fourth line. And I was like, oh, like, whatever. I didn't say anything at this point, but it definitely hurt a little because I was like, in my mind, I shouldn't have been there, and I knew I should not have been there. So I was really upset, but I was like, hey, like, I can work my way up. It's not that big of a deal. But weeks went on, and I was still on the fourth line. I would get scratched. I got scratched a couple times. But the first time I got scratched, that we had a big roster at this point. So I think we had 5 lines. So that whole week I was on that 5th line. And so I kind of knew it was coming. And then my coach came up to me. He would always tell the scratches the Thursday before the Friday, Saturday games. He's like, hey, we're not going with you this weekend. Like, he's like, maybe be ready for Saturday, depending on if we have to change. But he's like, for sure, not tomorrow. And so I was like, oh, like, this sucks. I was very upset. I like went in, got all undressed really fast. I walked all the way upstairs, and my captain at the time, she said something to me in the locker room, but then when we all went home, because I just left and went home because I was like, this, I don't want to be upset in front of everyone because again, this is a team sport. I don't want to be like upset for an individual thing that's happening to me, but I knew I shouldn't have been there. Like that was the most frustrating part for me because I was like, I know I can contribute and I really want to. So I actually went home. My captain at the time, she texted me and she's like, hey, like, she's like, we all see that you've been working so hard in practice and we don't know why this is happening to you. Like, I think you deserve this, like, blah, blah, blah. And my captain, she was one of my really good friends. And I think she had put in a good word for me a lot of times to maybe play me a little bit more if they need to change, like, blah, blah, blah. So that was like the first half of my sophomore year was really tough. I came home and I guess I can talk about it now. That first semester of my sophomore year, I was like super close to transferring. Like I almost left. No one knew this other than my parents and you and whatever.
Yep.
I didn't tell anyone, but I was really close to transferring and I'm so glad I didn't just because I love BU itself. But I went home for winter break and I was like, okay, like I'm going to stick it out. Maybe I can transfer because I was like, maybe I can just go home winter break, transfer after this. But I was like, let's stick it out. We'll see what happens. So I go back to school and I played wing my whole life. They switched me to center, which on our team had a little more playing opportunity. So I was totally fine with it. I was like, great. I didn't love playing defense. I was never like a defense first type person. So it was definitely a change for me. But I was like, okay, I'll play center. And that whole second semester, I inched my way up the lineup. I was in the top 6 forwards when we needed people on the ice at the end of the game to maybe score a goal. Like I was out there every once in a while. I ended up being on a power play. And I think the biggest thing for me is which is crazy it's very rare to go from being in the stands to being a go-to forward, but definitely weird. And maybe I shouldn't have started where I was, but I did, and that's fine. And I think the biggest thing for me is my mindset going into it. I feel like a lot of people, and I've seen this like on my team in college, but when you're scratched, you kind of go into this bubble and you're like, oh, woe is me. Like this sucks. This shouldn't be happening to me. But I think my mindset was like, okay, I'm going to prove them wrong and I'm going to work hard. And I literally just put my head down at practice every single day and work my ass off, basically. And I was like, and I would stay on the ice later and I'd shoot and I would lift extra in the gym. Like I was like, I'm going to do everything to show these people that I want to play. And it ended up working for me. But I think it's just that mentality that you're like, oh, you can't feel bad for yourself. Like even if this shouldn't be happening to you, you need to kind of step in and be like, okay, I'm going to prove people wrong. And sometimes maybe it doesn't work, but for me, it did. And I'm really grateful that I kind of had that mindset change, because the first semester I totally was like, oh, this sucks. I feel so bad for me. I'm going to transfer. I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to go somewhere else where they're going to play me and blah, blah, blah. But I think that was a big turning point for me. And then junior, senior year, I just kept getting better and better. And my team wasn't all great. Like we weren't great in our conference, which is fine. My team, personality wise and friends wise, was great. And I had so much fun with everybody. And I personally was getting better and better. And so that's all I could control. And so that's kind of where I was. But that sophomore year was a huge pivoting point for me.
Yeah, I remember you coming back Christmas break, and we had a couple lessons, I think, and you were, telling me what was going on and that you might be leaving and stuff like that. But, I give you a lot of credit for being patient. And I remember you saying that I think that I'm just going to stay and see what happens. And then, what you just said, what great messaging, that you just focused on what was in your control. And that was your attitude and your effort. And it, obviously it paid off, because what happens the next year, I remember you telling me, you just say, you won't believe what happened. They named me captain, assistant captain for your next year. So talk about that. I thought that was great. I mean, what a great story.
Yeah. So I had that mess of a sophomore year. The last thing I was expecting junior is to be a captain. So I was like, whatever. So we were, our captains are team voted. So it's all voted by us. The coaches have no say in it. And my head coach at the time, Brian DeRocher, he was really into that. Like he was like, I want my team to pick their captain, because he's like, that's how you'll get them all to buy in the most and respect them the most. And so he was really for that. And so we had a spring skills practice going into junior year, and this is when he would announce it. Like he'd be like, okay, your captains next year are going to be blank, blank, and blank, or whatever. And we were skating around just at the beginning, like, how you skate in a circle, shoot pucks, whatever, at the beginning of the practice. And he came up to me and he was like, hey, how would you like to be a captain next year? And I was like, what? I was like, wait, me? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, he was like, majority of your team voted for you to be assistant captain, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to. Like, that means so much, like, whatever. So he announced it at the end of the practice that me and two other girls were going to be the captains next season. And I talked to one of my teammates a year older than me. She ended up leaving, but when she left, she wrote a note to everybody. And I'll remember that she's like one of the best human beings ever. But she wrote in that note, she was like, so many of us voted for you because of how you reacted to your poor situation, because everyone knew that maybe I should have been playing at that point, but I wasn't. And so she basically wrote in her note that everyone was so impressed with me, and that's why so many people voted for me, is because how I handled myself in that situation. And I just put my head down and worked hard, and that's like a great asset to be a leader. So I still have that note from her, because that really, I was like, wow, like people notice that I did that, which is cool, because you don't realize that people notice how you react to situations, which they do. Like I'll see some of my teammates, I would have seen some of my teammates in college react to their situation that maybe wasn't the greatest very poorly, and that it affects your teammates. Like you're all in it together. And so it was great for me that I knew that people saw that I tried to handle it the best that I could. So that meant a lot to me for sure.
I don't know if anyone else out there needs a tissue, but I got a little tear in my eye. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That was really cool. So you go into your junior year, and the landscape is a little different. I look at, let's go to your mom. I texted her, what's something? She texted me that you got to play in Fenway Park when the NHL Winter Classic was held in Boston her junior year. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. In college, that was definitely one of the coolest experiences we had. It was snowing that day. I normally wore a bubble, so I had to change to a cage because I couldn't see with the snow. Like it was crazy. We personally, our team didn't play that well, but just the experience was so cool. And I actually went to the Winter Classic a few days before, or I think we played. I can't remember if we played before or after the Winter Classic, but I ended up going. I went to the Winter Classic, got to watch the NHL game, and then I was like, and we get to play on this. Like, this is so cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, and especially it being in Fenway Park, like going to school in Boston, and Fenway Park's just so historic and cool. So yeah, that was really cool, and I think the parents had a lot of fun at that too. So I think that my mom thought it was really cool because the parents were like, "This is so cool." They had a lot of fun. So
Well, I can't imagine. That's so cool. She also said that um, you playing in the first women's Beanpot Championship at TD Garden in front of 11,000 people your senior year. Was that the biggest crowd you've ever played in front of, or
yeah,
was that outdoor game?
that's like one of the top highlights of my college career. That probably is the top highlight. It was we like so we were in the championship and the consolation gets played before. And for the people that don't know what the Beanpot is, it's BU, BC, Harvard, Northeastern. It's basically like the Battle of Boston, who's the best team in Boston. So you play it every year. And the boys are always in TD Garden, but the girls, just because they didn't think we could get the fans at the time, we would just switch like who would host. And so this past year, they were like, oh, we're going to do the girls' championship and consolation game in TD Garden. So the first round was at Harvard, and we ended up winning to go to the championship. And so we show up we were all nervous. We were like, what if there's not that many people here? Like, we had no idea. So we show up to the rink while the consolation game was playing, and the consolation game was like kind of full. Like we were like, wait, there's a lot of people at this consolation game, and that we
Yeah.
kind of thought were like would be at the championship game. We are like, wait, this is like it's loud in here. There's a lot of people. We are like, oh my god, like there's gonna be a lot of people here. So we get in the locker room, we get dressed. The other game had gone into OT and like shootout and whatever. So we had been in the locker room for so long. So we like hadn't seen anyone else like trickle in. But we go out for warm-ups and the whole like lower bowl and then some of the top bowl was like filled. And it was I was like, this is crazy. But we played Northeastern that game, and Northeastern brings a really good we'd bring a really good student section, but their student sections at their men's games are like crazy, and they brought them. They were all there, so it was the coolest atmosphere. We ended up losing in overtime, but we were down 1-0 basically the whole game. We tied it up, pulling the goalie at the end of the game, and then we ended up losing in overtime. But it was a really cool atmosphere, definitely, and an exciting game too. Like scoring at the end, like that was really cool. So yeah, it was crazy.
What did you? Um, Sorry to just change it.
No,
Change.
it's okay.
We got to cover a lot of ground here. We're almost at an hour, 56 minutes, and it seems like 5 minutes, Lace. I could do this
I know. Wow.
a lot longer. Um, so all in all, you ended up having a great college career. You had that one year, and let me just read everyone what's on the website at BU. As a senior, 2023-24. Served as an assistant captain for the second year, named a Hockey East second team All-Star, selected as a New England Division I All-Star, named a Hockey East Distinguished Scholar for earning a spot on the league's all-academic team all 4 seasons, not just one. You big smarty man, too. And then named Hockey East Co-Player of the Week November 6th and also January 22nd. Um, that is awesome. So great messaging. What did you graduate with?
I graduated with a degree in health sciences and a minor in biology. So,
How are you
big
gonna
science
change the
girl.
world with that?
I'm still figuring that out. But yeah, no, it was BU is a great school, so I'm very thankful that I got to go there and get my degree from there. That was definitely something that was also important to me. So yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
That's awesome. Um, so now when you were just rollerblading downtown Boston, somehow you met some person at Harvard, and now you're on the journey of your life. So talk a little bit about your boyfriend and what you're doing now, because the last I heard when Tess was here for a lesson was that you're at some restaurant that Will Ferrell was at.
Yeah, so yeah, I met my boyfriend freshman year, the first weekend of freshman year at school, and he played hockey at Harvard. So we were together all of college, and he ended up
What's his name?
leaving.
What's his name?
Alex Laferriere. He
Okay,
ended
thank
up
you.
he ended up leaving school after junior year and to come play professionally in Los Angeles. And we didn't know what team he was going to be on, but um, he came here and ended up making the Kings. So he was all in the Kings last year as a rookie. So this is his second year. And so I was deciding what to do for my fifth year. I did enter the transfer portal, but I kind of knew in my heart going into my senior year that I was like, this probably is going to be my last year, just because I wanted to see how it went for me. If I was kind of disappointed with how my season went, I maybe would have been like, okay, let's go like one more. But I had so much fun and my team was great. And personally, I thought I did well. So I was like, this is a good chapter to end it. And so, yeah, so he has been in LA for the past year. And obviously, me being done, I had the opportunity to come out here, which I'm very grateful for. Not many people can live in Boston and LA and all these cool places. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I made my decision pretty easy. I can live somewhere cool. I think my biggest thing was obviously being done with hockey was hard. But I had played for so long and I kind of was like at the mindset, it was like, okay, this I'm ready to be done. But change is hard, but I feel like not changing is even harder. Like I was like, I'm not going to be able to play, do the same thing every single day for the rest of my life. Like, and I knew I didn't really want to play professionally. So I was like, I'm going to take this opportunity and live somewhere new, try something different. I walk to the beach every day. It's great. It's
Yeah,
totally different,
whatever.
but no, I'm having so much fun. But I think my biggest thing is like, I want to do something new. I have the opportunity, thankfully to my boyfriend, to live somewhere different, somewhere cool that maybe I wouldn't have had the chance to live before. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, but been super fun and definitely you can come visit whenever if you want, but
Okay,
it's
thank
been fun.
you.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to go back just a little bit because I was talking with Tess, one of the lessons or whatever, and I asked her the question. I says, you know, when it was you announced that it's over, that you're retiring, and you called it a career. I said, well, was it hard for her, now that hockey's getting going and stuff like that? And she said that you teared up talking about it at one dinner, not too long ago. You know, that it was tough, that you miss it.
Oh yeah, this was in the summer. Um my I had said to my mom, I was like, "Oh, I think my biggest, which is weird, like the biggest time I'm focusing on hockey was in the summer because I'd trained so much. So I came back this summer and I was like, this is weird. Like I was like, I feel so different. And then my dad came up to me one day and he was like, "Oh, do you miss it?" And I was like, this is a really bad timing because I was literally just talking to mom that I was like, I feel weird. But I think I was just like your life's so different. Like I went from being busy and training like all the time to not at all, which I wanted because I was like, I've done this for now 17 years of my life, and
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to be an NHL player. Like I was like, I mean, they do have the PWHL now, which is so cool. And I think if I were like Tess's age and the PWHL had been around for 5, 6, 7 years, like I would definitely consider it more, and it would be whatever. But again, I just didn't feel like that was for me. And so I think the hardest thing for me was like the lifestyle change. Like I was like, this is so weird. But now I've agreed possibly to running a marathon with my older brother. So I definitely
Yes.
have other things. I started golf. I've started all these things that I didn't do before, which is really cool. So
Yeah.
Grandma's Marathon next summer. The
Oh, wow.
registration's on October 1st, and my brother got married this past summer. And long story short, I got reeled into maybe running it with him and his best man on his wedding night after maybe a few too many drinks. So I've been running, but I have to register. And so I told him, I was like, this was in July, his wedding's in July, and we're in September now. And he was like, I'll start running in the summer leading up to October 1st. And if I think I can do it, I'll sign up with you. And so I think I'm going to do it. But I think focusing on a marathon, doing something different is a good transition from how busy I was. Like I was like, I just need something that I want to do and kind of work towards. And I think that's a good thing. I've also been golfing quite a bit. So, which is frustrating.
Awesome.
Golf's frustrating, but it's fun.
Oh, your world is a blank canvas right now. So keep painting and trying. That's awesome. Um, we are over an hour. This doesn't happen very often with me, so this is great. So I want to start wrapping it up. I want to talk about Tess for a little
Oh
bit
yeah.
because she's had some pretty cool news. Just committed to Harvard recently, within the last couple weeks, I think 2, 3
Oh
weeks,
yeah.
maybe longer than that. I don't know. Time goes by, but anyways, so that's fantastic. I didn't know that was in the mix, but here's my lesson recap after my first lesson with her. And I had been working with you probably, what do you say, 3 years maybe before I started working with her, maybe 4.
Yeah, 3, 4 years. Yeah, because I would come with Rory all the time, and
Yeah,
then it switched to Tess. Yeah,
Rory. God, I miss her. Boy, she had a
I know.
great career. Okay,
Yeah,
here's what I
she's great.
wrote. Here's what I wrote after my first lesson with Tess. I told Tess not to have the mindset of being as good as Lacey. I want her to have the mindset she's going to be way better than Lacey. Judging from her focus and compete factor when watching her do drills, she's very determined and will work whatever it is until she gets it. No doubt in my mind that if she puts the work into really getting good at the drills that I'm introducing to her, that she'll have her pick of colleges when it's time to do that.
Yeah,
She's going to be a fun one watch to develop. That's what I put in there. So cool.
yeah, yeah. Tess is great. Tess is I mean, she plays D, I play forward. I would say we are complete opposite hockey players. I'm more of like a skill. I don't want to hit like whatever. I mean, Tess has a lot of skill, but she's very tough and like has that edge. And I think um, she's more of a full package player than I am. I kind of took my skill and my speed and I ran with it, but she kind of has it all, has a little more edge than I ever did. So I don't know. I think, and she just made prep at Shattuck, so she's doing great. But yeah,
That's awesome.
she loves
No,
it.
it's you were a big influence on that. I tell it time and time again. There was a research study done on the world's fastest sprinters, and
Yeah,
there was one commonality that was across the board, and it was none of them were first siblings. They all had older siblings, so they were chasing after them, and that's what she was doing. So you did a good job on leading her in the right direction, young lady.
I know. Once she was old enough and we could like go train together, and a few summers ago we started working out together. Like that was so fun, and I think that I kind of pushed her too a little bit. Like I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we gotta do an extra rep in the weight room and whatever." So Yeah, that was fun though, that we got to train together for a little bit, being
Yeah,
so far apart in age.
not a lot of well, my kids, they train together all the time as well, and they love it. And I love it that I can still hang with them once in a while. So, okay, here's some quick hitters for you. You did pond hockey, you did off ice training at your house, stick handling, shooting. What other extras were you doing as a youth player growing up? Were you working with a skating specialist? Anyone else that you were working with, a mindset person?
The biggest thing I started working on, I think a lot earlier than other people, was I started working out at like 12, 13 in middle school. I mean, I wasn't lifting like extremely heavy, but I was working more on like speed and agility and then like weight and a little bit of weight training. And I think
And
that really helped.
was that with a trainer?
Yeah, this is with Jamie. He works at Fast Athletics in Minnesota or
Okay.
in Minnetonka. He's the best. But I started with him and I still go to him in the summers. Like I've been with him for forever. And he's really good at like the speed and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I did that and I think that really helped me. I started at a pretty young age. So
How about skating? Just AAA stuff? You weren't working with Barry Karn or
no,
the
I didn't. Tested like a more skating stuff than I did. But no, I worked more off ice than on ice, I feel like, earlier than more people did.
All right, we're going into the quick hits now. Looking back on your hockey journey, I get in front of a lot of young hockey hopefuls that have big dreams like you had. What's what's something that you can give advice, navigating the pressure of high level competition?
Um, I think to always remember why you do it. Like sometimes you're like, oh, like this sucks. I don't want to play. Like this, whatever. Again, you're not playing. Like you're all so upset. But like why you do it and because you enjoy it. Like always remember to have fun. Like that's the best part, I think.
Well said. Well said. All right. I'm going to get selfish here for a little bit. Uh, favorite quote? Because I like to learn stuff too. Do you got a favorite quote?
Favorite quote?
Come on, you
Oh
got to have a
gosh.
favorite
I'm
quote.
not a big quote person.
Okay, next one. Are you a reader? Do you read books?
Yeah, I do, but like
Lucy.
not books that you're gonna think are I like read like love story books.
Oh my goodness. What the heck? Okay. Have you went to an apple orchard yet? You tree hugger, you.
I know.
Okay, so you can't recommend a book. You got no quote for me. Do you listen to any podcasts?
Yours.
Well, thank you. All right,
Yeah, I've listened to
easy
yours.
one.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I think this is going to be a lot of people are gonna listen to this. Great messaging, awesome journey. What you got a movie or a documentary you can recommend to me? Anything?
Lance, you're really
Gosh,
putting me on the
Nate.
spot.
God, I
I'm
just
not, you're more of like you always have a documentary or a quote or something up your sleeve. I'm the complete opposite of that.
okay.
I'm trying
Well,
to think of a documentary because I do like documentaries, but I'm really blanking right now because I do.
you didn't.
But
Did you get extra time when you took tests?
no, I
I'm
should
being a
have. I wish.
I'm being Oh, all right, young lady. If you do find a cool book or movie that you remember, just text it over to me. And I appreciate the listening. Miss Martin, this show has come to an end, and I want to congratulate you on an amazing hockey career. I'm so grateful I was able to participate in a very small part of your hockey journey. You were a model student, practicing at home all the time, and I always look forward to our training sessions. I miss you and your mom.
I know, I
And
miss you too.
yeah, you made Coach proud, Lacey. Doggone it. So, best of luck as you set out on this next chapter of your life out there in Cali. If I am there, I am gonna reach out to you. But if there's anything I can
Yeah,
do
for
to
sure.
help you in this next chapter, please don't hesitate to ask. And just a super guest. And thanks for sharing your story with us today, Lacey.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right. Well, until our paths meet again, young lady, you have a great weekend. And congratulations on an awesome career.
Thank you so much.
Well, that concludes another episode of the Hockey Journey podcast. I can't thank you enough for stopping by and listening. I hope you enjoyed hearing Lacey Martin's Hockey Journey. All you young ones out there, if you're looking for someone to model yourself after, someone that has been there and done that, I think Miss Martin checks all the boxes on how to bring the best version of themselves to the world day after day after day. Just a superhuman being, just as you heard here today. Thanks again, Lacey. As always, you can book an in-person lesson with me at sweethockeycoach.com, or if you need some guidance regarding your stick skill development at home, besides just doing the same small handful of drills, just head on over to onlinehockeytraining.com and let me show you how you can become a mega learner with my monster 1200 off-ice stick skills drill library. Lastly, if you think there's someone in your circle of family and friends that might like this episode as well, please share it with just one person. It will really help me in growing this hockey community. Again, I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, or submit a review. I hope to see you back here soon, and do me a favor, make someone close to you smile today. All the best, my friends.